Hi guys, and welcome to this new fun video. In this video I will explain to you how you can design, import and read your own custom clothing design or any other design for crocheting. And I'm very excited about this video. I have to say the week is very busy, so I hope I didn't forget anything in this video, but if you think I forgot something or want a better explanation, please leave it in the comments and then I'll reply there, or maybe make a new video if that's necessary. So this is actually kind of a part 2 of my previous video of my making my own clothing collection series. I would really recommend you to watch that video, because in this video I'm going to explain it a little more in detail, especially like the designing part and also how I use stitch fiddle and such, and how I read the pattern, because I did explain some things in the previous video but maybe not that much in detail. So I made a script for this video so that I hopefully don't forget to say anything, and I'll probably also look at my phone a few times to see my notes. So this video is actually my first ever requested video. This is the request by this user. I don't know the user from the top of my head, but this is the request. So they basically asked me how I design my pattern, to import it in stitch fiddle, and yeah, kind of like the design process. So I really had to think about this on how I could explain this as good as possible. So I really hope this video can be helpful to you if you want to start designing your own clothing collection or just your own pattern. You can apply this to anything. And in this video I will start a second design for my own clothing collection, but not that official, but it will kind of be like the same pattern as the design I did in the previous video. The vest, here is the design I made in the previous video. I really like it a lot, but in this video I want to start a new version which is a bit more simplified with only 2 colors, and it will also be butterfly themed instead of bird themed. And it will be a lot more simple, the overall design, because I wanted to experiment a bit, because it is my first pattern I made myself, and also the previous vest was maybe a little bit too big, so this time I want to make the vest a little bit smaller. That's just the project I will be using to explain to you how I make it step by step. So the first thing I would really recommend to do is to make a swatch. I also explained this in the previous video, but I also made a swatch for the previous vest design, and that really could help me because it is necessary for the next steps to have like a swatch, to have a gauge to measure and to know how many stitches and rows you need. The next step I would really recommend is to know your measurements. So one of the first things I did was measure my body. Of course, this is only necessary if you want to make a clothing item, or maybe if you need measurements for like a pouch or a purse, you could make a prototype and measure that. So something very important to do is to know your measurements, and I made like a sketch of all the measurements I would need on paper. And then the next step, I actually also kind of explained this in the previous video, but then you measure your swatch, how many stitches and rows are in 1 centimeter, and then you can use that amount for 1 centimeter and multiply it with your own measurements. So then you know how many stitches and rows you need for that measurement, customized to your body. So now comes the part that I think that was really requested for this video, and that is to draw out your design. I use Procreate, which is an app for iPads, but you can use other apps or even draw on paper and then take a picture of it or scan it and put it on your computer. The main thing you have to do is to design something and then get it onto your desktop. But I use Procreate. You also could use Photoshop, and there even is like a free Photoshop on the browser which is called Photopea, I think. So you can use that if you don't have the money to pay for Photoshop, or if you don't have an iPad you can use Photopea, or if you don't want to use any appliances at all, you can just draw it on paper, but just make sure that your contrast is high enough, and then take a picture of it or scan it and put it on your desktop. So what I did is I used my previous design I had for my previous vest, but I want to customize it a little bit. And something I also want to explain is that I use the grid on Procreate, but you can also use grids on Photoshop and stuff like that, or just use your ruler on paper to make sure the ratio is right. So I'm gonna explain this, but I hope it's clear enough. So I have the grid on Procreate, and I know my width is 66, well actually 63, because I want to make it a little bit smaller compared to the previous design, stitches. And what I do then is I look at the grid, and one grid square is about 10 stitches to 10 rows, and then I kind of like estimate how big the ratio should be. So I really hope my explanation is clear, but that's how I kind of get my ratio right in the app, so that I know that my design is about the right measurements to go into Stitch Fiddle. So then I just draw out my design, and yeah, I was very happy with it. It was very easy to do. And then I export it to my desktop. So what I do is I export it to my Google Drive, and then on my laptop I download it. Although I have like a MacBook and an iPad, so I could also just use AirDrop or something like that. But I'm just so used to putting everything on my Google Drive. And then we go over to the part where we use our desktop. I download the file, and then I open stitchfiddle.com, and here I will import everything and also read the pattern. So what I do, you can see the steps that I do here on screen, but I just import a picture, and I also choose crochet and crochet with color, I think. And then I import my file, and then you have a few options before you upload the file. And this is very important because you have like a slider that chooses the amount of stitches or rows, and it's the amount that goes into the slider is like the biggest amount of stitches or rows. So I know that I have 76 rows, so I put 76 into that slider as an input, and then it will kind of fit the ratio into 76 rows. And then you can also choose the amount of colors that you want and adjust the colors a little bit before you upload the file. And if everything is about correct, you choose upload. And in Stitch Fiddle you can then choose like the little pencil and adjust the pattern a little bit to make sure the amount of stitches and rows is correct to what you measured before. And I also clean up my pattern a little bit, like the butterflies, because usually they come out a bit crooked when I first upload them. So I make sure that all the butterflies have the same pattern compared to each other, and I also make sure I clean up the edges. I also, in this step, made my pattern a little bit smaller, like on the side and on the top, because I know that my previous design was a bit too big, so I deleted 3 stitches and 3 rows at the side and the top. So that was it. And I also added like the little squiggles. I figured it was easier to add them in Stitch Fiddle compared to first drawing them in Procreate and then importing them, because when I just draw them myself it's a lot more precise. So that is what I do in that step in Stitch Fiddle with a little pencil. And when everything is right, and if you're happy with the design, you can then use the little locate tool. I'm gonna look at my notes how it's called. It's called the Progress Tracker, and I use this to crochet for every pattern piece I have that I use in Stitch Fiddle. So basically you click on the little locate button, and then it will start at the first row, and you can click the arrow and you can go to the second row, the third row, the fourth row, and so on. So I think that's very easy. And also when you close Stitch Fiddle and you open it again, that pattern, it just continues where you left off with the tracker, which is very easy. And yeah, then you can start crocheting. I actually started yesterday evening, and this is what I have so far. So I just started with the bottom of the butterflies, and of course I still need to draw the pattern for the other side and then the back piece, but I think I'll first make this piece. So of course you have to design all your pattern pieces for your design and put them in stitch fizzle as well. And yeah, then you can start crocheting and make your own design. And these were the steps that I also did for my previous vest, and I think it actually turned out very well. If I have some progress with this piece of the vest, I will put it on screen now, because I still have a few more days until this video has to be edited. I hope that if you want to make your own clothing designs, that these steps really helped for you. I really hope I didn't miss anything, but if you have more questions, please leave them in the comments. And also, if you made your own design based on these tips, please send them to me over on my Instagram, for example, because I really want to see your results and I would be so happy to be helpful to someone. I think that's it for this video. I'll see you in next video. If you liked this video or if you thought it was helpful, please like and also subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you in next week's video. Bye bye, have a good day or night.